Hello folks, Anahita Rao here today on a lovely bank holiday to speak to you about a very important transit that is coming up. And yes, you guessed it, it's Rahu moving into Ardra. Rahu is moving into Ardra Nakshatra on September the 11th till 20th of May 2020. Of course, this date may vary a bit depending on where you are in the world. And also note that this is the mean node calculation and not the true node. All right, so let's get started. All right. Now, first I wanted to speak about Ardra itself and what it means, and then we're going to get into Rahu's transit and why it's so important. Now, the constellation Ardra means green, or the moist one, translated from Sanskrit. Its symbol is a teardrop, and it indicates sadness as well as regeneration. This suggests that we are in for some big changes in this nearly 9-month period. And of course, for any lasting change to manifest, we normally need to go through some endings first. And when we have endings, it can of course bring some sadness, but then comes a regeneration and the new beginnings. And the deity for Ardra is, of course, Rudra, the fierce form of Shiva associated with destruction. Again, suggesting quick, sudden, and fierce endings. The power, or rather Shakti, of Rudra is effort. Particularly for making any gains in your life, you will have to work for it with this particular transit. Its basis above is hunting or searching, and its basis below is reaching its goal. Basis below meaning here on earth. And with this, of course, the ultimate result can be achievement if you keep your focus. So this time, through this transit, can arouse in us a desire to achieve through great efforts. But of course, the result can be great rewards. Now, Rahu is going to be very strong to deliver results as it's moving through its own nakshatra. Especially when Saturn moves away from Sagittarius in January, as it's been tightly aspecting Rahu and hence stunting its growth. Rahu will start its transit in the pada 4 of Ardra, which is the Navamsha of Pisces. Here it is still being aspected by a very strong Saturn. This time period will make you very ambitious, and it will make you want to take some risks. It's a time that can bring very swift changes into your life. It's a sensitive and compassionate pada, Pisces, of course, because it's ruled by Jupiter. So it's also a good time to give to charitable causes. Of course, throughout this period, we have Jupiter moving through its last weeks of Scorpio. So you can expect quick change, leaps of growth, and profound insights that may come quite suddenly. Then after that, Rahu goes into the Navamsha of Aquarius on November the 13th and performs quite well here, because as you know, Aquarius is its own sign. In the third pada of Ardra, you may be inclined to higher studies. Any sort of learning will gain some momentum here. And here Rahu is very active in the third pada because, as I said, it goes into its own Navamsha of Aquarius. So it's going to push you to strive for material gains. Mental activity as well is at its peak here, so you will come up with sudden ideas and may take impulsive decisions towards your material goals. January the 15th, 2020, Rahu goes into the second pada of Ardra and into the Navamsha of Capricorn. In the second pada, you may be very productive, but can also experience some obstacles and frustration in your quest for material gain and ambitions related to power or wealth. You will have to be patient here, as we were talking about Saturn ruled by the Rahu here will make you want to take shortcuts towards your goals, so be cautious of that. On March the 18th of 2020, Rahu goes into the first pada of Ardra in the Navamsha of Sagittarius. Here it can do well, as it's going to be with Jupiter for quite some time. Overall, this is a good transit though, this Rahu going through Ardra. And we can look forward to positive growth, particularly since Rahu is very well placed in Gemini. Mid-January till early February, be watchful though of Rahu's movements, as not only will it be in its most difficult pada, but Saturn will also be transitioning from Sagittarius to Capricorn at that time. But as I said, overall, it's a good transit. Now here's two reasons why I think this is a better transit than the one in Punarasu that we just had. One, because Jupiter's transit was very unstable when Rahu was going through Punarasu, and this had an impact on Rahu's transit as well, because, as you know, the controlling planet of Punarasu is Jupiter. And number two, because Rahu will start to get Jupiter's direct aspect starting in November. And more importantly, Saturn will stop aspecting Rahu at the end of January, which is a fantastic thing, because that's what Rahu can operate on its own then. So now, what is Rahu? It represents pending karma. So wherever Rahu is transiting past life, things can of course come up. And wherever Gemini falls into your chart, you may experience things in two directions, two paths, two choices. So this can lead to some confusion. In order to really understand how it's going to affect you, you need to look at the following. You need to see the lordship of Rahu for your lagna. For instance, if you're a Taurus lagna, then Rahu, of course, is your 10th lord, and you may be thinking about your career, so you may have two job offers come up, two different career path choices come up. So if you're a Leo lagna, it's representing your 7th lord. So there may be issues with your marriage, or you may have to make a choice between two different partners. Maybe you're ready to get married and you're looking at two people. So it can come up in various ways, but because we're talking about Rahu here, be watchful for any sort of deception or confusion or not seeing things clearly. Also see any planets that are situated in Ardra in your chart and see what they represent, because that's going to be quite key. Let's suppose you're Aquarius lagna and you have Saturn sitting in Ardra. Then this, of course, triggers your 1st and 12th house matters, as Saturn is your lagna lord. So in this case, some health issues may come up at this time, as Rahu will trigger weaknesses and past karma in your chart in order to bring it to the surface and for you to deal with it finally. It's here where you can also come up with some alternative methods of dealing with health concerns. So it could be something so simple and natural that you never thought would heal or improve your health. But yet now you'll take the chance and you'll go down this unconventional alternative path for healing and succeed here. Rahu is doubly powerful in this position as it's transiting through its own nakshatra. So see what Gemini represents for you, as it has the power here to trigger those issues. As I mentioned before, we also have to see not only the controlling planet of the nakshatra, but also the ruling deity. And here we have Rudra. The Shakti of Rudra is effort, as I mentioned. So you will only be able to get optimum results here by putting forth efforts to achieve anything. Now, of course, because it's Rahu, you will get good results by taking some risks and coming up with ideas that you never dared to try in the past. So thinking out of the box, being unconventional, but not unethical, will get you good results here. But again, because we are speaking about Rudra, the theme of destruction inevitably will come up. So be prepared to let go of all that has expired in your life. Yeah. Again, this is connected to what Gemini is, what the lordship of Rahu is in your birth chart. You'll also find that you'll be pushed to the corner to take a leap if you don't start to implement some bold moves into your life on your own, because that's what Rahu tends to do. It creates that suddenness when you least expect it, so it's best to be a bit prepared where you can. Something that has gone much beyond its lifespan, but you've been hanging on to it for a long time, can suddenly disappear, so that there's room to implement something new in your life. The old has to go anyway. This is the time to think big though, and take leaps of faith in the areas that are impacted by Gemini and represented by Rahu in your chart. As I said, during this transit, with the exception of mid-Jan to mid-Feb of next year, you'll get good results if you take risks, if you think outside the box, be unconventional in your thinking if you want results, but be very vigilant about being ethical as well as legal too, because that can have consequences, because of course here we're dealing with Rahu, the very, talking about the karmic energy, so it's best to be risk-taking, but at the same time ethical if you want the results. Where you're unethical, it will definitely come back to haunt you. The last time we experienced Rahu transit in Ardra was from February 2001 until October 2001. So if you're old enough to remember that time frame, you may experience some similar themes come up in your life. I'm gonna briefly share my experience, as that was a life-changing time for me. So I had graduated from law school and started my first job in August of 2001 in New York City. But of course, a month later, 9/11 happened, and no work was coming in, and the firm, it was a small firm, they had to lay off all of the newcomers, as the main concentration of work was immigration law. So of course this led to the destruction of my career path, my very conventional career path in New York, because I graduated from there and I wrote the New York bar. So this forced me to leave New York, being that I'm not from there. I had to make that choice. And ultimately though, into a more fulfilling career later down the line. Within a year and a half I had moved to London, a city which is completely foreign to me, and set up my own law practice. But as you see here, it was a risk, a hunch that led me to move and set up my own thing. And of course I had to think out of the box to do that. Starting an American practice in the UK, creating a niche. So Rahu moving through Ardra brought the destruction that it needed to, which was the impetus for me to leave and then therefore look towards something else, which again was a very unconventional path for me. But in order to succeed, that is the path that I had to take. Now, I was not in Rahu Dasha at the time. I was actually going through Moon Dasha. But regardless of that, I find that if you are going through a luminary period, because remember the nodes, Rahu and Ketu both, are actually just a projection of the moon. So regardless of whether or not you are in a Rahu Mahadasha, you will feel the impact of a strong Rahu transit, particularly if you've got planets sitting in the Rashi that it's transiting, like in this case Gemini, yeah, and even more specifically Ardra. Now, of course, normally the results of any transit depend on the dasha you are running, the strength of your planets, your ascendant lord, right? So maybe you're not going through Rahu's dasha, but your ascendant lord is sitting in Ardra, for instance. Of course, that's going to have an impact. Conjunctions, aspects, and those things also have to be looked at. Of course, the dasha does take importance. So if you are at the moment going through Rahu or Mercury, then this transit of Rahu is, of course, very relevant to you. All the best with it. And for those who have not yet subscribed, please do so by hitting the hand button on the right hand side. Thank you, folks. All the best.